Hello, today for review I've got new earphones by the company that not appeared on the market not so far ago. Their name is TForce and model is Yuan Li. And they stated that this model is first part of the trilogy. It's the most affordable model with single dynamic driver diaphragm. And also they said that second part will be hybrids and third part will be tribrids. Well, makes sense in terms of numeration. Price is $120, not the most affordable, but they tried to deliver as much value as possible, and actually price to quality ratio for this model is pretty high. $120. I will add links to the Hi-Fi Go shop in the description, and probably it's all, so let's have a closer look. And as you can see, the box is full of references to the Chinese culture, mythology and so on. Yuan Li is the name of some emperor of ancient China, and they try to deliver this message even with the box to set the proper mood. And on the back side there are technical specifications, so as you can see, company targets Eastern markets. 10mm diamond-like carbon, less than 0.5% of distortion, 103 decibels of sensitivity, 32 ohms of impedance, 6N oxygen cryo copper wire. So nice specifications, not too sensitive, not too hard to drive. And we remove the outer wrap. Inner box is made of pleasant cardboard, black with soft touch effect and nice gold embossing. Inside you'll get different booklets, papers and inlays that give you that premium feeling. Also earpieces themselves. Let's pull them out carefully. Different set of tips, so 3 pair of balanced tips, 3 pair of base tips, and 2 pair of foams, so pretty generous set of tips that where everyone will find something suiting his preferences. Pretty fancy storage case and the stock cable inside. So in terms of package and accessory set, I think everyone will agree that it's superb for this price, for the $120. And you can see that for the design they decided to go to the fancy mirror-like finish, and it looks stunning and attractive. They are made of metal, and of course they will gather fingerprints pretty actively, but it's the price you have to pay for this beauty. Actually, it's not scratches, it's a bit of dirt that sticks here. So it will gather fingerprints. Maybe I'm not sure about scratching, but definitely signs of wearing can appear. But looks nice and build really sturdy and reliable. Finish quality is great. Here is company logo on face plates, and in general shape is pretty ergonomic. They have proper angle of spouts, fitting nicely into ears, providing about average noise cancellation, will be enough for public transport, for noisy street. There are lips for holding the tips and kind of mesh protective grill, so all that parts are in place here. So let's put tips back, fitting nicely and very reliably. Cable is made replaceable, and here they decided to use 2-pin connectors, so pretty good in terms of durability. In the affordable earphones, 2-pin connectors are a better choice. They decided to use just regular sockets, no recessed pins, no recessed sockets, so it's easy to get third-party cable, but I don't think it will make much sense. Sockets are fitting pretty tightly, and there are ear hooks here and interesting brown wire Average in terms of softness, not super soft, but still pretty okay in the everyday wearing. I think they selected this cable based on the acoustic characteristics first of all. Not too tangling, not too getting too hard when it's cold outside. There is a slight microphonic effect, but ear hooks reduced it in a pretty noticeable way. Here is the chin slider, and after chin slider it goes just twisted to the regular jack. So, to summarize all that exterior part, as you can see, it's done on a great level that is exceeding expectations for this price tire. And of course about the sound. Creators recommend from 30 to 50 hours of burn-in to these earphones, and they actually even describe how to do that. They recommend to do it on the volume slightly lower than average. I gave them 60 hours of burn-in, but the most noticeable changes in sound were during first 10 hours. So basically my idea here, you can just start wearing them and sound will quickly settle. Of course you'll have to experiment with tips, trying both options or even maybe some third-party tips to get ones that will suit your tastes more, so I prefer not basic tips. Let's use FIO M11 Plus Limited as a player to show some examples, and let's talk about the sound. So, TForce are smart guys indeed, and they understood that there is not much sense in creating yet another traditional tuning. So, what I mean by traditional, there are two common options: either it V-shaped signature with prominent bass and treble, or something neutral, focused on the micro contrast and trying to be analytical and monitoring. They decided to go in a bit different way, and they create a detailed model, but at the same time leaning a bit towards the weighty signature. Actually, it's the first case when earphones totally correspond the infographics on the promo page. I already mentioned Hi-Fi Go link in the description, so if you go that link and scroll it down, they have a few interesting charts and diagrams showing drivability, sound, signature and so on. But let's talk about their sound step by step. Bass is slightly accent, it's not overdone, but it's definitely noticeable, prominent, it goes to the really good depths, and it balancing well between dry and punchy low frequencies and weighty and mighty type of bass, so their low frequencies here is somewhere in between, so they have a good impact but at the same time nice weight, because you know, in many cases when you're getting more speed and punch, you losing weight and vice versa. Here you'll get a nice balance and at the same time a really good detalization. Of course not balanced armature type, but more of dynamic driver type. But at the same time these earphones have a really good amount of details in the low frequencies, that small nuances and overtones, and thanks to the slightly accented lows, it do magic with real instruments like double bass, some horns, some instruments made of brass, wood, all that sense of natural materials they will highlight and they will accent them. But at the same time they're not exaggerating the size of that instrument, and in my opinion it's pretty good. Also they are pretty enjoyable of course with electronic music when you need punchy and weighty dominating low frequencies with good depth, but at the same time low frequencies are controlled well and doesn't shadow mids, except of really bassy tunes. Of course it's unavoidable. And as an example, Juno Reactor Trans-Siberian. I really like this album in particular, or I like this album in general and this track in particular. Nice bass line and a lot of interesting tiny things and ideas that this earphones delivers nicely. Mid frequencies are done in a similar way. They have slight hint of added weight and warmth. Resolution is nice, but of course it's not the model for those who are looking for something monitoring, for something focused on the micro contrast and detalization. But at the same time, level of detalization and resolution here is pretty nice. This model is just not trying to focus on the small details. They are present, but they are not highlighted. And that makes this model more or less forgiving for the non-quality sources, and also they are pretty okay with not superbly recorded tracks. But of course still something well recorded and well mastered will be nice. Additional weight highlights male vocals, making them a bit more velvety, more weighty, more organic and natural sounding. And also in many cases it gives additional body for the instruments, making them more noticeable and more highlighted. Female vocals are also sounding nicely. Actually they have a necessary bump in the upper mids and lower treble that highlights the presence area to balance the weight on the lower part of mids. So really well balanced signature. Above average sound stage, not super expensive, but for me typically warmer earphones sounding a bit more intimate. And also pretty good for those who like that sense of vintage tuning, but really not too much because they're showing necessary level of detalization at the same time. And as an example, Niechęć, really great avant-garde jazz group. I really like them. Track named Prozak starts with interesting instrumental intro. Actually its music is all absolutely instrumental, but starts really in an efficient way with just a single instrument, and then more and more enters, and this model renders all that nicely with good sense of presence and realism. And treble tuning is on the comfortable side of things. It's not super smooth treble, but definitely not the model for those who like boosted high frequencies. Actually extension is even above average, not hugely above, but still. And in terms of technical performance, it's also good. Nice resolution and proper attacks and decays, giving a good weight. Of course, don't expect rich layering or some superb overtone saturation. It's more of a basic treble, but executed on the nice level and suiting well taste of those who don't like accented treble. But at the same time it's not super softened and it's not absent, so percussions and all that high frequency overtones are played nicely, but of course not boosted and not forward. That actually makes this model a bit on the warmer side of things. But still I need to highlight that proper amount of treble is present here. But proper I mean for those who don't need them to be boosted. And as an example, Leïla Martial, one of the best female vocals in my collection, Matins, and really good example of female vocal with a lot of overtones, and this model play it nicely. Of course, at first I lacked a bit of accent on the treble area, but after usage to this frequency response, actually I understood that this model play all that necessary nuances pretty well. And the highlighted weight on the mids and bass made accompanying instruments pretty fun. And in terms of pairing, actually on the website creators stated that they can be used with smartphone or with dongle, but actually, you know, I really, in my opinion, at least some good digital tonal converter is required here, or even some entry-level player. Of course, you can use them with smartphone and they will sound pretty well, but at the same time accent is necessary. More detailed source will be beneficial for them. In terms of conversions, actually not much models I can recall, because usually we getting more V-shaped signature like FIO FD3, for example, recently announced, bit more focused on the micro details on the mids, and a bit faster in terms of sound with less weight, so more speed, less weight. They remind actually Austria KC09, really great model that was popular in the ex-Soviet Union countries, but much less known in the rest of the world. But this model is slightly bit more warm. Also, they, in terms of signature, they reminding me a bit KB Ear Believe and Diamond 2, but Z2 models by KBER is warmer with slightly less treble than Z. And not much sense, of course, in comparing them with some hybrid models, because usually hybrids are more focused on the micro contrast and actually more lightweight in the mids and in the treble area. So to summarize all that said, TForce created really interesting, pleasant model for those who like weighty signature. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course have a nice day.